Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of Inside the WSOP. Through this video series, we're just going to talk about interesting spots that we find ourselves in and just analyze them for you guys, try to throw out some strategy content throughout the World Series. We got about 40 days to go, and obviously this is the best time of year for a poker player. In this hand that I'm going to talk about today, it was in the 1500 6 max event that I went relatively deep in. I ended up busting late on day 2 in 49th place for about $5,500. Not exactly what I was hoping for, but it's a good start to the summer. I got the first cash in the books, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the summer. It was an interesting flat spot that I did for a wide array of reasons. So in this hand, I have about 150,000 chips at 1,500, 3,000. And I am in the cutoff. So under the gun folds. Under the gun 1 min raises to 6,000, which he had been doing, like that was just his standard raise. I'm next to act with ace of hearts, king of spades. Now most of the time I would 3-bet here, but there are a few reasons that I elected not to this time. The first is I was most likely going to have ultimate position because the guy on my left, the button, was playing really snug and just was not getting out of line. The second reason was Nick Schulman was in the small blind, and he had about 120,000 chips, and he was relatively active, looking for good spots, and just kind of, he was in there mixing it up. So I thought his stack presented a very good squeeze opportunity, and he'd be able to leverage that size stack by 3-betting to say 28,000 or so. It would put either the opener or myself to a decision where we would have to be shoving or folding, and when that's the case, it just sets up for a really good 3-bet stack size. In the big blind, the player was looking for good spots all day. He seemed like he was pretty good, and he had about 75,000 chips. So I thought this could be a good spot for the big blind as well. If he shoves his 75,000, there's about 20,000 dead in the middle. So if he were to get that through, he'd be increasing his stack to 95,000 or about 25%, and that's without showdown. So I thought that this kind of set up for a good squeeze spot for him. Another reason, and I think this is the biggest reason that I elected to flat here, is that when I do flat this hand, if I'm able to show it down, throughout the rest of the day, I just kind of have free reign to flat really wide nonstop because they have to respect that flatting range. And I know that maybe this is just seen as a one-off play and people aren't going to give much credit to it, but I hadn't been 3-betting very often. So I think that if I do 3-bet in this spot, I'm going to get a lot of folds as well, and I don't want that to be the case either. It doesn't work pre-flop. The button folds. Schulman and the big blind both just call. So we do end up going 4 ways to the flop here, which is completely fine. I have a hand that isn't perceived to be in my range, and I'm going to be able to take advantage of that post-flop. Now the flop comes ace of spades, 8 of hearts, 4 of spades. Very good flop for me, obviously. Both of the blinds check, the original raiser checks, and with about 27,000 chips in the pot, I elect to bet 9,000. Now the reason I bet 1/3 pot and not a normal like half pot to 2/3 size pot is because I think that their ranges are going to be built in a manner on this drive of board that they have very binary decisions. They're going to be either just check folding, they're going to be check calling most sizes, so it doesn't really matter, or they're going to be check raising and it doesn't really matter how big I bet. So by betting the small size, it doesn't really let either of the blinds like check raise all in. So now if they do elect to check raise and I just smash through, they're going to be making a calling mistake with a lot of hands by just check raise calling it all off. So I definitely want to set that up, and when that's the case, it also gives them the opportunity to check raise fold as a mistake. And anytime you can set something up like that, it's going to be to your advantage, obviously. So I bet 9,000, both the blinds fold, and the original raiser calls. Now I think that he has a lot of pocket pairs, 9s through kings that he's going to be check calling with, as well as some of his weaker aces, all the way up to even ace-jack, just because this board is so dry that him betting it into 3 other people, it doesn't really solve much because he's going to just be taking it down a lot here, and he doesn't really have to be worried about anything scary coming on the turn, really. So he can check this pretty freely. If he has a weaker ace, I know that he's probably going to be concerned that I have a bigger ace flatting him in position. So he needs to be kind of leery of that. So since betting doesn't do him much good here on the flop, I wasn't shocked to see him call as well. I think he'd be doing that with the majority of his continuance range. He elects to check call the 9K, and we go to the turn. And the turn is the 2 of diamonds. He checks, and I check behind. Now the reason I want to check behind is because I really can't stand a check raise here. If I'm check raised, I am going to be up against hands like ace deuce suited, ace 4 suited, or if he were check calling like a set of 4s or a set of 8s, he also could have check called ace 8 or ace 4. So like I said, I think he would be checking his entire range that he's going to continue with on the flop. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him check call on the flop with a hand like ace 8 or ace 4. And for that reason, I can't really bet this turn. Plus, I want to just kind of make it look like I'm giving up on this turn card as well. So we both check. The river is the 3 of hearts. So he elects to check, and I go for 23,000 on the river. Now the reason I use this size on the river is because I want it to look like a value bet. Yes, it is a value bet, but if I were bluffing, I would also use this size because I would want that to look like a value bet as well. I think his decisions are going to be relatively binary, and if he did check call with a flush draw like Jack 10 suited or a hand like Queen 10 suited or Queen Jack suited, he's not calling any size. But if he check called with ace X on the flop, he's going to have pretty simple decisions here, and he's going to be calling, either way. So I bet 23,000. I want to show down this hand for all of the reasons I described pre-flop for the reason for flatting this. I want to have free reign to be able to flat a wide range moving forward and to take advantage of people post-flop when I'm in position. So he elects to call, and I showed on my ace-king, and I beat ace-jack. All right, guys, that's it for me. This was episode 6 of Inside the WSOP. If you have any comments, feel free to post them below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And if you haven't checked out the other vlogumentary that we're putting out for this entire summer, check that out. It's a little bit more lighthearted. We're kind of having fun with it. And it's just to keep things real level during the WSOP because this grind can be very long and very taxing on you. So check that out if you haven't. And until next time, see you guys later.